I'd lived on that patch of land for 6 peaceful years before she showed up. 5 acres of open space, a small workshop, and a porch that faced the sunset. My little corner of freedom after decades of city noise. Then one afternoon, I heard the sound that would come to haunt me. Heels. Sharp, deliberate clicks echoing up my driveway like a metronome of trouble. She came armed with a clipboard, sunglasses perched too high on her nose, and a smile so forced it looked painful. "Good afternoon," she said. "I'm Karen, representing the Homeowners Association." I set my wrench down and wiped the grease off my hands. "I think you've got the wrong place," I told her. Her eyebrows lifted, that smile freezing in place. "Oh no, I've got the right one. You're the owner of 421 Maple Ridge, correct?" "Yep." "Then this is definitely my concern." She opened her clipboard and started reading like she was performing on stage. "Unapproved fencing, visible storage of construction materials, and a non-conforming shed structure." I almost laughed. "Ma'am, this isn't part of the HOA. I made sure of that when I bought it. The boundary ends 2 lots before mine." Karen blinked, clearly not used to being corrected. "Oh, that's odd," she said, flipping through her papers. "Because according to our updated map, your property now falls within association limits." "Updated map?" I repeated. "Show me." She hesitated, then held out a page. I glanced at it. It wasn't an official map. It was a printed Google screenshot with a red marker drawn in pen. I handed it back. "That's cute, but no. You're mistaken," her fake smile faltered. "We'll see about that." And with that, she turned sharply and walked back to her car, the sound of her heels trailing off like a warning. I figured that would be the end of it. But with people like Karen, it never is. The next morning, there was a letter taped to my door. "Notice of violation," it said in bold red letters. Below it, a list of nonsense, unauthorized modifications, visual clutter, and non-permitted storage units. It was signed K. Watterson, HOA President. I stood there on my porch, reading it twice, trying not to laugh. My property wasn't even within their jurisdiction, but she'd gone and filed violations anyway. For a while, I ignored her. I didn't want to feed into her power trip, but within days, things started getting weirder. One evening, I spotted a car idling near my fence line. Headlights off, engine humming low. When I stepped outside, the car pulled away fast. The next morning, I found fresh boot prints by the side of my shed, and my gate latch had been unhooked. That's when I realized this wasn't going away. I drove down to the county zoning office with my property documents. The clerk, a guy who looked like he'd seen every kind of neighborhood drama, listened quietly while I explained. He nodded, typed for a minute, then turned his monitor so I could see. "Your parcel's outside their legal boundaries. Has been since this subdivision was recorded in '98. HOA can't enforce anything here," he said. "Can you put that in writing?" "Already printing it." He handed me an official statement stamped with the county seal. Proof, in black and white. That afternoon, Karen returned. Same heels, same clipboard. She didn't even greet me. "Mr. Dalton," she said, "this is your final warning before fines are issued. You have until Friday to remove the unapproved structures." I held up the county letter. "You don't have the authority to fine me. My property isn't part of your HOA." Her face went pale, then tightened. "That letter must be outdated." It was printed this morning. Her jaw clenched. For a moment she just stood there, silent, fuming. Then she snapped her clipboard shut. "You can either comply voluntarily or face legal consequences," she said. "Legal consequences?" I raised an eyebrow. "For what? Owning my own land?" She didn't answer. She turned sharply and walked off again, but this time her steps weren't steady. They were fast and angry. That night I thought it was over. She'd seen the proof. She'd back off. But when I woke up the next morning, there was a bright orange paper nailed right onto my fence post. "Final notice, immediate action required." At the bottom, her signature again. The thing that made me stop laughing, though, wasn't the paper. It was my mailbox, left open, the contents scattered. Someone had been snooping. Karen wasn't just overstepping. She was escalating. So I started documenting everything. Every letter, every conversation, every car that slowed down by my property. I installed motion lights and cameras near the gate. A few nights later, the cameras caught her. Karen, in a cardigan and sneakers this time, flashlight in hand, pacing near my fence like she was inspecting a crime scene. That was the moment I decided to fight back properly. If she wanted to play this like a war, then I'd fight on paper and with evidence, not emotion, because I knew sooner or later Karen would go too far. And when she did, I'd be ready. The morning after I caught Karen on camera, I printed every photo and timestamp. Clear as day, there she was, creeping along my fence line with a flashlight at 11:47 p.m. Trespassing. I wasn't angry. Not yet, I was methodical. I compiled everything. Her fake violation letters, the orange notices, even that ridiculous map she'd drawn with a pen. Then I made an appointment with the county's legal affairs office. The clerk I'd spoken to earlier recognized me the moment I walked in. "Back again, huh?" he said. I slid the folder across the counter. "She's still at it, and now she's on my property at night." He frowned, flipped through the photos, then exhaled sharply. "That's harassment. You might want to get the sheriff involved." "Already on my list," I said. I called the sheriff's department later that afternoon. They sent a deputy out, calm, professional guy named Torres. He looked over the photos, the letters, and the official county map. "Looks like you've got a solid case," he said. "We'll file a report and make contact with her." He paused, then added, "You'd be surprised how often we get calls like this. Some HOA presidents think they run the whole county." "Yeah," I muttered. "Karen definitely does." That evening, Torres stopped by again. Apparently, he'd gone to the HOA office. "She wasn't happy," he said with a small grin. "Tried to tell me you were lying. Claimed the county lines were in dispute. I told her that's not how jurisdiction works." I smiled. "How'd she take that?" "She told me I'd regret interfering in HOA business." Then she stormed off. That sounded about right, but Karen wasn't done. When she couldn't scare me directly, she switched tactics. Neighbors I barely knew started mentioning rumors that I was violating zoning codes, that my shed was unsafe, that I was bringing down property values. Her smear campaign was spreading fast. Then came the fines. Fake invoices slipped into my mailbox. Each one with escalating amounts, $500, $750, $1,200. The note attached said, "Failure to pay will result in legal action." That's when I realized she was testing how far she could go before I broke. But instead of reacting, I built my case. I documented every fine, logged the dates, saved the envelopes, and then I found something that made my jaw clench. One of the letters had the HOA's official letterhead, complete with a county approval stamp that looked off. So I took it to the county office again. The clerk examined it closely, then called his supervisor. After a few minutes, they came back. "This seal's fake," the supervisor said. "Whoever sent you this committed forgery." That was it. The moment the entire situation flipped. I filed a formal complaint with the sheriff's office, attaching copies of everything. They escalated it to the county attorney. Within days, I got a call from an investigator. "We're opening an inquiry into the HOA board's activities," he said. "It looks like they've been issuing documents without legal authority." And then, for the first time since it started, Karen went quiet. No letters. No cars idling at night. No clipboard visits. Just silence. But I wasn't naive. I knew she was plotting something. Sure enough, a week later, I got a certified letter. This time it looked official. "Cease and desist for harassment and defamation." Signed by the HOA board. It accused me of spreading lies, publicly attacking community leadership, and creating a hostile environment. It was so absurd I almost laughed, until I saw the last line. "Failure to comply will result in civil action." That was the final straw. I walked straight into the HOA's office the next morning. The receptionist looked like she'd been waiting for me. "Oh, you must be Mr. Dalton," she said, voice tight. One moment, and then, like clockwork, Karen appeared, perfectly pressed blazer, expression carved in arrogance. "Mr. Dalton," she said, "we've been expecting you." "Save it," I said, dropping a thick folder onto her desk. "That's every false violation, every trespass, every fake notice you've issued, including the forged seal." Her fake composure cracked. I don't know what you're talking about." "You will," I said. The sheriff's department does too. They're investigating your board for forgery and harassment. She froze. For a few seconds, she just stared at me, lips trembling, then forced a smirk. You can't prove anything, I leaned forward. Karen, I have video of you trespassing. I have county documents, and I have the investigator's name if you'd like to call him yourself. Her eyes darted just for a moment, the look of someone realizing they'd lost control of the narrative. But she tried one last swing. You'll regret this, she hissed. The HOA has influence, I smiled, calm and steady. Not anymore. I turned and walked out, leaving her standing there with her clipboard pressed to her chest like a shield. That night, for the first time in months, I slept without checking my cameras. But I had no idea that the story was about to explode, far beyond the HOA office, far beyond Karen's control, because someone else had been paying attention. And when they stepped in, the truth would finally make her cry in front of the entire community. 2 days after my confrontation with Karen, a white SUV pulled up to my gate. It wasn't hers this time. A man stepped out, dress shirt, press badge clipped to his belt. He introduced himself as a reporter from Channel 7 News. We've received multiple complaints about your HOA, he said. Word is you've got evidence. I hesitated for a second, then handed him the folder. You might want to sit down before you go through that. He flipped through the papers, the fake fines, the boundary map stamped by the county, the forged seal. After 10 minutes, he looked up, wide-eyed. This is serious. You're saying they've been enforcing rules outside their jurisdiction? Not just that, I said. They've been collecting money from people they had no authority over. For years, he whistled low. We're going to run this story. 2 mornings later, a camera crew was parked in front of my driveway. They filmed everything. The fence, the orange notices, even my motion light footage showing Karen trespassing. I spoke calmly, just facts. No exaggeration. I didn't need to. The truth was bad enough. That night, the segment aired under the headline, Homeowners Expose Rogue HOA Extortion. Karen's face, once smug and confident, appeared right there on the 6 o'clock news, pacing outside my fence, waving her clipboard like a weapon. The neighborhood went silent for a day. Then chaos erupted. People started showing up at my door. Is it true? One man asked. They've been fining me for my shed for 3 years. Another woman came holding a stack of letters. These look just like yours. Within 48 hours, half the community realized they'd been paying fees to an HOA that had no legal control over them. The next day, Karen came back. Not in heels this time. Sneakers, messy hair, sunglasses on even though it was cloudy. Her SUV screeched to a stop and she marched up to my driveway, shaking with rage. How dare you? She shouted. You went to the media? You've ruined everything. I stood by my fence, calm. No, Karen, you ruined it when you started harassing people. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she kept yelling. You don't understand. The board made me do it. They said if I didn't enforce the rules, I'd lose my position. I stepped closer. Then maybe you should have checked where your authority ended before you started threatening people. She looked at me, breathing hard, eyes red. I was just doing my job. No, I said. You were abusing it. That's when the sheriff's car rolled up behind her. Deputy Torres stepped out, calm as ever. Evening, folks, he said. We've had multiple reports of harassment, trespassing, and now... He held up a folder. Fraudulent HOA documentation. Karen froze. Wait, what? Fraudulent? Torres opened the folder. County investigators found your board's letterhead and seals were unauthorized. You've been issuing illegal fines. That's forgery, her voice cracked. It wasn't me? The board, they told me it was approved. Torres nodded. You can explain that downtown. Her clipboard slipped from her hand and hit the gravel. She stood there trembling, tears spilling down her cheeks. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered. I believed her. But that didn't make it right. Torres guided her gently to the patrol car. She didn't resist. As the door closed, I caught her glance through the glass. For the first time, she didn't look angry. She just looked tired. The next morning, the news ran another segment. HOA president under investigation after forgery allegations. It spread fast. Local blogs, community pages, even Reddit threads. Within a week, the entire board resigned. The county announced that all fines and fees collected outside the HOA's official boundaries were being reviewed for refunds. Neighbors started dropping by with coffee, shaking my hand, thanking me for standing up. "You did what none of us could," one woman said. "We just paid because we were scared." For the first time in months, the street was quiet again. No threats, no letters, just peace. A few weeks later, a small envelope showed up in my mailbox. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note. "I'm sorry. You were right. I let power blind me. Karen." I read it twice, then folded it neatly and set it aside. I didn't hate her. I just hoped she learned something. That control isn't the same as respect, and fear isn't leadership. That evening, I sat on my porch as the sun dipped low behind the trees. My fence stood firm, my property untouched, my peace restored. Because sometimes, standing your ground isn't just about defending land. It's about reminding people that truth still wins, even when power tries to bury it.